Hello, Ken. How are you this fantastic evening? It's actually evening.
It is evening, Dan. It is 5:05 here in beautiful Phoenix, and I'm doing great. We've got a storm settling in. It's raining outside, and I love this weather. So anytime you're in the desert and you get rain, I consider it a success.
Well, where we are, it's almost April. It's also almost April where you are, but it's almost April, and we had snow flurries today. Yeah.
Crazy.
So I call that success. What are we talking about, Ken? What are we talking about?
I think we're going to talk about success tonight, and we're going to talk about how we define it and whether or not that definition actually serves us. So, in conversations with clients over the past week, the term success came up several times, and I noticed this commonality in that everybody was defining success as these checklist items. Did the business grow? Did I get the promotion? Is there more money in the bank? Was I able to upgrade my car? Did we go on the vacation this year? In and of themselves, all terrific things. But one of the things I noticed in their talking about them was they described them with this sense of like euphoria when the answer was yes, and then it faded almost as quickly as the euphoria came on. It's like, got the raise, great. All right, what's next? Right? So, like, it was like a sugar high, and then it was gone. And as we talked more and more about that, we discovered several things. One of the most interesting was this all or nothing attitude that they had. Like, for someone who owned their business, if they didn't hit every single one of their goals, they defaulted to, I feel like a failure. I didn't succeed. And not like I feel like I failed. I didn't reach my goal. Got it. I got 85% of the way there. That's great. What can I do next time? How can I learn from this experience to hit my goal or exceed it next time around? Instead, it was I didn't get 100% of what I wanted. Therefore, in their mind, they were negating everything that they accomplished, all their progress, and instead they only focused on what didn't happen. And what didn't happen was significant enough to allow them to give themselves zero credit for the work they had done and the good stuff they had accomplished. It was black, white, all, nothing, 100 or zero. And that was just really debilitating thinking. And the second thing was what I didn't hear come up in terms of success was things like, we had a beautiful weekend with the family, or I actually took some time out and read this book that I've been wanting to read for a while, or my wife and I spent time out in the garden and got some gardening done. There was even if those things happened, they weren't seen as quote successful. Success just got measured in material terms and by material gain. And so we had an opportunity to unpack that and talk about strategies to be able to see success in broader terms and to be able to give yourself credit even when you didn't get everything done that you wanted.
It's about time you were successful. What do I mean? So this was a conversation I had with one of my coaching clients, one of the local ones who actually gets to come sit here in this office. So if you see the video version of this, you'll get to see where they actually are sitting with me. And this client, we talked about one of my terms that I basically just rebranded something that's commonly used in, I'll say, the self-help world, which is goals. And the challenge, in my opinion, with goals is that it's binary. You either have success or you fail. That's it. It's binary, right? And so I looked at the elements of a goal and I made it this simple. The elements of a goal are, what do you want? By when? That's it. What do you want? By when? And so simply by decoupling those two things, we can then semantics a little bit, but I think it changes the whole dynamic. It guarantees success. So we start with the first part, which is, what do you want? And then we call what you want. If you're committed to it, we just simply switch it from your goal to your future reality. And the reason we switch it to future reality, we'll say, if you're committed to it, then you'll have it, right? And there's very few things for most people that are either physically or mentally you're incapable, like it's impossible for you to achieve. There are definitely like a list. We could all make them and come up with a list of things that are pretty much impossible. But those, without those few exceptions, almost anything that you really want, given enough time, given enough attempts, change your approach enough, you can make that your future reality. So then the second piece comes in. Goal is, what do you want by when? I think the important part of a future reality, once you say, I'm committed, I'm going to make that my future reality, then you need to set up a target date. Most people would then say, well, you've just done the exact same thing as a goal. You just said, what do you want by when? And I said, no. I said, what are you committed to making your future reality? Not just what do you want, where are you committed to making sure happens for you? And then second, what is your target date, right? What are you striving to have that be your future reality by? Here's what ends up happening. If we go off of goals, then again, it's binary. You're either going to have it by that date or you're not. If you don't, you failed. If you had it, you succeeded. In a future reality, if you're committed to having that be somewhere in your future, and we set out a target date, then all you have to do the moment you arrive at the target date is ask yourself the question, am I successful, right? Have I obtained my future reality? And if you haven't, then we just get to adjust. We have to change our approach. The first adjustment we make is realizing that maybe it wasn't going to happen for us as quickly as we hoped, as quickly as our target date. So we can then establish a new target date by still holding on to that future reality, saying, I'm still committed. And my saying is, I'll find a way, I'll make a way, or I'll figure it out. That just basically means I'm going to do whatever it takes to make that my future reality. Now, I know where I want it by, but if I get there and I haven't had it, I have to ask myself questions like, why not? So bringing this back to the topic, it's simply this. Success to me is when you are committed to a future reality and you're willing to do whatever it takes to make that your future reality.
So I like that notion of uncoupling it from time. I think that's a great approach. I think I'd add into that the notion of failure as being something that is just data. It's just input. And I think we get into this binary world of it's good or it's bad, it's positive or it's negative. And I think the win comes when we move out of that space and can start talking about data and input. And if that goal or that future reality, or as I talk about it, calling the future into the present, if that can be seen in those terms, then we've rewritten the script. And failure, so-called, then becomes an opportunity for learning. And success becomes something upon which we can build. But I would also go back to why you want it. Like, you're committed to it. I think that's great. Know why you're committed to it. Why is it essential that you have it in your life? That to me is the examination piece that's missing from those conversations I had with clients. Like, why did you want to get this? And oftentimes it's so cliche. It's like, I look at those people around me. I look at people my age. I look at people in my profession. I know I've got to, be further along than I am. So it's advancement for the sake of looking good. It's advancement and goal setting for the sake of keeping up with, and that's exhausting. I think if there's a true commitment, and we talked about this several weeks ago about this notion of what do I claim for myself, right? It becomes me oriented. This is where selfish is really good. It's like, because I deeply am committed to this, because I see this as advancing myself. I want to get my master's degree. I want to get my PhD. I want that higher position, because by having it, I'm advancing myself. I'm not doing it to keep up with someone else. I'm not doing it to please anybody else. And I'm not doing it out of comparison to someone else. Then I think you can be clean about talking about that future reality that you want to create and how you want to go about it. And if you simply have, as you were saying, Dan, uh, a, a time by when you would like it to occur, but not hitting that time doesn't erase the goal, and it doesn't throw you into some tailspin where you negate and write off the progress that you've made, then I think you're in really, really good shape. So I would just urge people to get clear on their why. Why are you after that thing? Because for people who are quote after it, and this language it's so important. I'm chasing after something. I'm going after it. That to me feels super unhealthy. That's different than wanting to acquire something, than wanting to create a new future, than wanting to create a more enhanced life. If you're chasing something, you're going to get exhausted. And when you finally catch it, so what? You got it. Then what? You have to start the chase again and you're on to something new. There's got to be a purpose behind it for it to be meaningful and for you to actually enjoy the ride.
It's interesting. The word failure to me is like the word depressed. I never say it. Somebody would ask me, if I felt like I was down, which is rare, they might ask me, "Are you depressed?" And I'd say, "No." That'd be a weird thing to me because I think I've never been depressed. I probably felt the same biochemicals that if you took my blood and took the blood of someone who claimed to be depressed, you'd be like, "Oh, look, you're feeling the exact same way." I just don't use that term depressed. It's the same thing. I don't ever use the word failure because I don't see it that way. I learned this long ago. Like I think Tony Robbins said, and he may have got that from someone else, said there is no failure. There's only feedback. Like Ken said, there's just data, right? So I don't feel like I ever failed, especially where I started this with a future reality. It's like, no, if I'm committed, I'm going to find a way. I'm going to make a way. I'm going to figure it out. So I can't fail unless I give up. The only failure there would be for me would be literally giving up, right? Because along the way, I don't have it. Again, go by that target date. Like I don't have what I wanted by when I wanted it, but I didn't fail. I just got feedback. I got data points. Then if I'm committed, if I don't give up, I still have a chance at success. I still have a chance at success because I can keep going. I can change my approach. I can try something new. I can ask for feedback. I can get coaching. I can do what it takes to learn and make an adjustment to it. And then for those people who actually use the word failure, like who, just like they might use the word depressed, but like, yeah, I failed at that. Yeah, I tried and I failed. I would say, that's great. Learn to love failing. Be a success at failing. Because if you look at it as things as failure, if that's the way you choose to use that term, then you would say every successful entrepreneur was a failure probably a dozen times over. There are attempts to start a business. There are attempts to, like be a part of a startup company, whatever it is. There are attempts to be successful in business by that definition have failed dozen plus times. I don't know the number. It changes all the time and it keeps increasing actually. So if you see that as failure, be happy you're failing because you're getting closer to what you ultimately want, which is success. So love to fail because you get one step closer. And it reminds me of one other thing I'm going to say, which is that there is a person when they talk about like going out and trying to find somebody to date, right? Called pickup, right? You're going out trying to pick somebody up. So you're making an approach on them. They would say to be successful, you need to get 3 no's, or they come up with some rule like that. So like every day, if your attempt is out in public to go talk to strangers who you don't know, right? With an attempt to get somebody to go on a date with you, that you must at minimum have 3 no's a day. So they get very comfortable with what we're going to call failure, right? And then ultimately it becomes success.
I appreciate the succeed at failing thing, and that was the watchword for one of my friends who is a successful entrepreneur who failed multiple times, and he would rejoice every time because he would say, "I'm one step closer to my successful business. That's all I needed was that one more failure, and here's what I learned from it." It's like that was a crappy hire that I made that really tanked this particular initiative that we were trying, or man, that was just the wrong approach to this particular problem to solve it. But what I've learned is I'm going to do it a different way this next time. He embraced it. He like embraced failure as his path to success. And this is the whole notion of like the obstacle is the way, right? That anytime we face an obstacle, it's not like, some divine being or the universe has thrown something in your path to throw you off. It's like, no, it's a lesson. It's a chance to learn and grow and expand. And if you actually tackle it, take it on, climb over it, go around it, tunnel underneath it, whatever it happens to be, man, you got some key learning to take into whatever is next. And so as you're approaching all this stuff, if everything is coaching, like if even that quote terrible news is coaching, well, what can come out of that? That to me is just the great win in this whole thing. And I do want to bring this back too to like success is something beyond material gain. It is that moment that you have with your spouse, that moment that you have with your son or your daughter. It's that opportunity to go on a walk and just enjoy some peaceful time by yourself. I talked to a friend earlier today she's just driven. And she said this past weekend, she actually allowed herself an entire afternoon and evening to just lounge around, drink wine, eat popcorn, and binge watch TV. And it took her an entire morning to get to a mindset of that's okay. I can actually do that. And part of my success is allowing myself to recharge. Part of my success is feeding me. And so I hope people who are listening take that to heart, that if you're not caring for yourself, no matter how committed you are to something, you're just not going to have the energy in your mind and your body and your spirit to be able to accomplish it.
My final point for tonight is rich versus regular. And here's all I mean is that I feel like I'm constantly being reminded that the difference is not as extreme as people make it out. And it goes back to Ken's thing of success being materialistic, right? Like, is it success having the Ferrari or is success having a car that's dependable? Is success having the huge mansion or is success having a nice, modest home? Is success, right? Like having the 10 out of 10 spouse or having the not 10 out of 10 spouse. You get the point. We're not going to go there. But the point is simple, that the difference in success where we make it out in our imagination to be so extreme, it's actually pretty much the exact same thing, right? Life is still lived and you can feel successful if you remove the comparison to the people who are more successful by our own judgment, right? It's subjective. It's not subjective with money though. I get it, right? It's not subjective to say their car is worth more than mine. It's definitely subjective with the spouse thing, but you get the point. It's subjective in the sense that you can be successful even though you can notice all the people that you deem more successful than you. So I think the big thing is stop comparing yourself and start seeing yourself by the standards that you create. You decide what you want. And then when you achieve that, when you have that, you can see yourself as successful, even if your friends, even if the people you look up to, even if the people you want to be like have greater financial success or things on a higher level than you deem. Allow yourself to feel the success that you have on your own.